here. Okay. Just a little bit longer. Okay, and I really have to learn how to snap better with my left hand. Go friggy. Okay, and welcome. And tonight I'll be making a couple more spells. I don't mean sitting there going woogity boogity. No, I mean I'm going to be sculpting little figures for various spells, such as I did here for Spiritual Weapon and Bigby's Hand. I've actually made up a short little list of spells that are mobile and can be represented by a single figure. Those are the ideal ones for things like this. There's other potential spells in the future. Hello, Kurtrian. Yep, there's other potential spells in the future, such as I could sculpt a little dome. What are you doing? No, no, no. I know you love your daddy, but no. Down you go. Go. Anyway, things like a little dome to represent Mordenkainen's tiny, or Leomund's tiny hut, things like that. But tonight it's going to be icon spell things that I'm going to be sculpting. The list that I have is actually, I'm not going to get through all of it today. It's got things like Arcane Eye, Cloud of Daggers, Flaming Sphere, Tensor's Floating Disc, Unseen Servant, and I'm going to be sculpting probably about 3 or 4 of those. I'm going to wait till we have just a few more people watching. If you are someone who is watching this after the fact on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, bell icon, the usual blah blah blah, and the Anycubic Photon is freaking awesome. Cloud of Daggers, the way the spell works, it's a 5-foot cube of daggers of pure force that spin and slash around, and they just kind of move around the battlefield, and whenever they move over somebody, they just go. So yeah. That one will probably be kind of like if I took the, Spiritual Weapon, but instead of one sword, it was like a boatload of daggers kind of being held up by these little energy tendrils. No. No. Let go. Let go. Oh, go. Shoot. You see, I do have a potential distraction. He's a little excitable tonight. Whereas she, right here, is all nice and quiet. Anyway, I'm going to wait until I probably have about 3 or 4 viewers. I would like to mention, to remind people, if you look down below, in the description of the video, I have a Kickstarter going right now. To be exact, the Kickstarter is my Titans of Legend. It's 6 STL files in solid and hollowed, and some of them even chopped up for printing on smaller printers, such as a Anycubic Photon, of giants, their enemies. For example, Grendel includes Beowulf, and various terrain pieces and other accessories, such as the furniture for a mead hall, standing stones, a ruined tavern wall, and that sort of thing. So check it out if you're interested in the concept. They are giants of myth and legend that include a PDF with D&D 5th edition stats. Meanwhile, okay, so like I said, this is our spiritual weapon. Yes, I printed it on a resin printer and in transparent green, and then just painted the base. So it came out pretty nice. Now, all of the spells will have that magic circle base, by the way. You know, let me pull up, let me focus in here. You know, the base is like a magic circle with runes all around it. And underneath the mass of tendrils is actually a, you can't see it here, but underneath the mass of tendrils is a further detailing of the magic circle. If I pull up this, you can see it right in the middle of this row. That's what's under all of these moving spells. Okay. Oh, baby girl. Okay, she's gonna go eat dinner. Now, let me remind people that I am awake. Usually that's through okay. And then there. Okay. Now, Kurtrian, can you... am I pronouncing your name correctly? And is it Koch, Koch? You know, any number of potential pronunciations with that name. I'll say mine is Valandar, is my screen name pronunciation. My name is Bill. Anyway, and we're not only not having people go in, we've just lost one of our watchers. Yay. Okay, so I guess what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and, well, let's use the right hand to do the snap. This is why Thanos did it with his left. There we go. Alright, this is 3D Studio Max. I'm going to do some base geometry in here after I import. And let's go 3D Printing Home, Meshes, Resculpt Minis, Bases, Magic Circle. I import the base. Wait, no, I won't want to import. The OBJ is what I want because it's easier. There we go. It's easier to deal with and it's faster to load. That is the magic circle. You can see that there is a bit of roughness to the surface. Now, the next thing is I think I'm going to start off with Flaming Sphere. Now, the way this is going to work, I'm actually just going to start with a spear. Okay. And it's going to be about as wide. No, not quite as wide as the base. I'm then going to lift it up. Make sure that it's at X and Y of 0. So it's kind of centered over top of the base. Now I'm going to do funny things. Affect the pivot only and move it back. Just to see how this looks. Bend. No. Let's see what happens if I do it this way. Okay, now let's bend. Okay, that's what I need to do. Now, we're going to bring it up to about there. Okay, now no. Let's try and bring it over this way now. No, that's not going to work. Okay. What I need to do... Oh, I know what I need to do. Put it about here. And then twist. That's the one. Okay, that's not going to do either. Alright, so what we're going to do then... Well, first let's convert it to edible poly. We'll make this a bit easier. And we're going to select here. And then we're going to use what's called a soft selection. We're only going to select, say, to there. Now let's twist it and see what happens. Oh. No. Let's try bending. Okay, basically playing around trying to find the right angle to do what I'm trying to do. Okay, so before I do that, I want to make sure I come down and lock the soft selection. Collapse all. Fuzz butt. Okay, and then no, that's not going to do it. I'm just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. And effect pivot center. And bring that back to 0. And I'm just going to export it as is. That's actually too big, unless I bring it over to here. Let's go ahead and shrink it a little. Okay, now export selected. I know it's a basic simple primitive, but that's what we need to start with here. 3D printing home, meshes, pre-sculpt. We're gonna go back to, let's see, spell effects. Okay, new spells. This is going to be pre-FS. Okay. It's okay. Real quick, I just want to poke my head back in here. Okay, I got 4 people watching. Okay, so let's head into Now You Work. Go figure. Okay, we're going to import first from the bases the magic circle base. Hide. I'm going to draw it in, and there's our magic circle. Now for the subtools, we're going to append and this is going to import, and then from spell effects, new spells, the pre-flaming sphere. Now on this I'm going to hit X so that we have symmetry for right now. And let's go ahead and subdivide it quite a lot. That's good enough for basic shaping. And we're going to Dynamesh it, because right now you can't see it as well on this. When I zoom in, it'll be easier to see. The polygons around the middle are larger than the polygons around the top, and we don't want that. We want the whole thing. So with the Dynamesh of 1024, Dynamesh. There we go. Then we're going to smooth out the top and the bottom. Now let's zoom out a little and kind of go to the side. We are now going to use the snake hook brush. I'm going to make it a bit larger. I'm then going to grab my tablet, my Wacom, and I'm going to kind of grab it near the top on the back. I'm kind of drag it around like this. We're then going to Dynamesh it again. We're going to leave the Dynamesh symbol on, and I'm going to smooth out this inner area because right now it's got a large grid in it. I'm going to switch to move. We're also going to turn this button on, this bright orange one I just turned on, and what that does, that keeps, if that remembers the size of the given tools. Then we're going to inflate, and we're going to kind of inflate in here. Whoop. We're going to shrink the mouse again. We're going to kind of inflate down the little tendril here. We're going to try and kind of make a little bit chaotic, especially around the sides here, because this is supposed to be a rolling sphere of flame. Then I'm going to use Move Topological, because I kind of want to bring this whole section here down to the ground, because the intent is, like I said, it's a rolling, roiling ball of flame. Now, right now, it's just a rolling ball of something. And I'm going to smooth out that bit right there. Actually, before I move that, let's Dynamesh again. Okay, and then we want it to have a feeling of motion forward, but at the same time we want it to be able to actually stand on the base. So we're going to thicken out the side where it meets the base. Like it's causing more flame. As we wait for it to Dynamesh. And smooth out these areas. And then hit that as I grab a soda. And that soda is right here. I use this every day. Best 3D print I ever made. Been using it for 1.5 years now. Okay, baby girl. Come on. Over here. Good girl. Whoever said cats don't listen to orders or commands? Yeah. They never had cats that really loved them. And let's just go over a couple of these just to... Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of widen out the sides. We're going to make this come out like this and kind of follow along with the once again to give it more of the a spinning, roiling flame look. We're giving it a really organic bit. And then once we've done this, I'm going to smooth out these areas here, because they got kind of wrinkly on me, and I don't like that. And then when it's done doing the additional smoothings, we're going to switch to the clay buildup brush and change the alpha to the round one. Hello, Andy. Sorry it took so long. I was kind of busy. Alright, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to shape it. Just add in some... Alright, no. We want to make all these shapes kind of spiral out. And kind of... We're now going to turn off X. I had it on parallel for a bit there, but we don't want it to stay that way because it will look unnatural. Okay. I can almost guarantee you the very next one that I'm going to do is going to be Wizard Eye. Simply because it's you know it's a spell that dates all the way back to first edition, the Player's Handbook. Flaming Spear was in first edition, but it was in the if I remember correctly, it was in one of the later books. Actually, I'm not even certain Flaming Spear was in first edition. It may have been a second edition creation, or even third. I know it was in third. Okay. We have our basic rolling shape. Now we need to make it fiery. With that, we go back to our snake hook, and we're going to shrink it a little bit. We're going to go to the end of these various tendrils here and kind of draw them out. Actually, let me go ahead and shrink this a bit more. We're going to grab the ends and pull them out. Just a bit. Oh, no. Pull it out. We want it to have that sensation of motion between these different... Oh, no, that didn't work. Nor did that. Okay, now on this side, we're gonna grab, we're gonna grab here and kind of pull out. Oh. Okay, it's really starting to get the look. We need to kind of come up from here and come up a little bit. We're going to shrink it down a little bit more and kind of make these a little bit smaller. Now some of these higher ones are going to grab and pull up a little bit and then smooth it. Because flames go up. Even after spinning, they kind of spin up. Sometimes I'll get kind of quiet. It's because I'm thinking, or I'm kind of focusing on what I'm doing. Okay, that's for the most part, that's the tendrils done. Now we need to sharpen them. Now the first thing we're going to do to sharpen them is we're going to go to Inflate Tool. I'm going to make sure that stroke is, lazy mouse is off, and we're going to go to subtract and shrink that mouse. We're going to kind of draw in between the flames. The reason for this is just because, and then we're going to roll that in and roll. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be hitting it with a polish here in just a few. Alright. And then we're going to make sure to make this deeper. And we're digging in once more down here. We got to smooth out that whole bottom area real quick, because it's got lines that we don't want. Okay, and then we want these flames to be sharp and dangerous looking. So we make the space between rather broad, but then the tips are going to be sharpened and made almost like into edges. Okay, and now we frame. And we're going to go down here and we're going to change the Dynamesh to 512. And that'll drop it down to 1 million. That's too little. 256. Okay. Dynamesh. This should take it, yeah, 257. That's good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to polish it a little. So we're going to deformation. We're going to polish it 3 times. By clicking here on polish and 3. Okay. We're then going back to geometry and we're going to divide it to get 1 million polygons, and we're going to the slash tool. We're going to turn off lazy mouse. We're going to make it add down to 7, and let's make it kind of big. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're just going to, like I said, we're going to make the upper edges of all of these sharp. That's not enough. If we make it bigger, it'll pinch it more. And if we make it too big, there's the possibility that it'll pinch at the top of everything we're working on. Okay, here we go. Okay. And then we're gonna kind of pull this in like that. We're gonna pull down here, down here. Okay. And then we're gonna bring this there, and then the top of it. Once we've got these basic shapes in, we're going to be able to do a little bit more detailing on the fiery bits. And we're kind of basically, we want to make sure these things come out sharp because it's the conical nature of flame. You go look at a picture of a fire. What do you see? Those little, or especially stylized fire, which this is more like stylized fire than actual fire. You'll see that those sharp points that it comes to. Okay. Now I'm going to do one last snake hook with a smaller brush on this piece right here. Okay, and I go back to slash, but this time I switch to subtract and go a little bit deeper. And I'm going to dig in between some of these flames. Okay, and here we go. We're getting our basic shapes in, getting some detailing in. Now when this gets painted, if you've never painted flame before, one of the best ways to do it is you start off with an almost white yellow, and you paint that as your base color. And then you add successive shades of brighter yellow, as in like more less or more saturated, less whited yellows, then go to oranges, then reds and dark reds at the very edges and the very tips. In other words, this area right here would be dark orange, while most of this in here would probably still be yellow. Or no, this would be dark red, especially down near the base. Down near the base, you might even make it almost a... Oh, my paints aren't on the wall right now because I did some painting classes earlier this week. Okay. Okay. And here we go. That is our flaming sphere. Now, one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a polish. Well, first, geometry. Let's go ahead and drop it down to 192 and give it a Dynamesh. Okay. Then we're going to give it a polish just to see how it looks. Okay. We are now at a state where we can grab each one of these little tendrils And by polishing them and smoothing them, sharpen them a little bit. Make them a bit more natural. We're going to go back in and resharpen here in just a second. It's just that this lets us make it a little bit more even and not as crude looking, because they were kind of crude looking. Okay. Current state of flaming sphere. Not too much left to do. Go back to add, drop back down to 7. And we're going to actually turn on Lazy Mouse, so we need to bring it back up. The reason for this is Lazy Mouse gives us a nicer, more even curve. And according to that, we need to increase this a bit more. Okay. Hold on just a second. Sorry about that. That's a bit too much. Let's drop it down just a little and kind of bring it up above. And then once again we're kind of sharpening the edges of these flames. Okay, come down there, down. Okay, and then we're gonna come in from here and come up over that way. And let's frame out, zoom out, and look to see how it looks. There. So what do you think for Flaming Sphere? I think that gets the message across. Okay, just making sure I had it on. And hello, Raymond! Alright, now I need to give a little bit more edging to this side over here. So that'll be... There we go. Actually, I'm going to grab the move tool I gotta kind of move this out a little bit and this in, because right now it's a little bit too far out. There we go. Flaming sphere. And then the next thing that we do, we change the subtool to 512. And we merge down. Always okay. We have one piece now. And actually with the addition of the base, let's make sure that it goes good. 768. That's 512 plus 256. That's 2 to the 8th plus 2 to the 9th. And we have 4 million polygons. That's a bit too much. Let's drop this back down to 512. Oh, wait. Before we do that. Yeah, 512 is what we want. Okay. Unlike the other spells, you can see part of the triangle underneath it. And now when we zoom in... Oh, wait a minute. It hasn't. It didn't fuse. So 512... Well, divide. Dynamite. Okay. 1.83 mil. And now you can see, like right here, that it's fused with the base. It's one solid mesh. But we don't want it to look like that. We want it to actually have, you know, few enough polygons to be sliceable and printable. So we go to Decimation Master. It's going to be a 70,000 triangle print. By hitting this 35K, because it's going to be 35K points, 70K triangles. Oh! And Flaming Spear is one of my favorite second level spells, although I usually end up replacing it when I get to the high enough level to get Fireball. And it's going from 1.8 million to 70.08. 70,000.08. 70,080. So we export these spells. Done. We're going to call this one simply Flaming Sphere Marker. Okay. Now the next one is going to be, like I said, Wizard Eye. Okay. Hello, Citrain. The spells on the docket. I've got a large list, but I doubt I'll get to them all. I mean, Flaming Spear I wanted to do tonight. But then I've got Arcane Eye, that used to be called Wizard Eye, Cloud of Daggers, Dancing Lights, Grasping Vine, Tensor's Floating Disc, Unseen Servant. So there's quite a few potential spells, but we're going to go ahead and switch to here. Delete. We're going to leave the eye. We're going to make it slightly smaller because it's supposed to be a small eyeball. And move it up to about human height. We're going to make it a little bit bigger because we want it to be clearly an eyeball when we're done. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make some lines. corner to corner. And two of them are basically going to be around the eye. And coming back down to here. And then coming out. Then I go over here. Rendering. Enable in viewport. Need to make it a little bit thicker. And bring it down from 12 to 8 sides. Editable poly. Select this one. Same thing. It doesn't need to be as thick, but it does kind of need to be thicker. It needs to kind of touch both of these. Put it about there. Sides 8. And then we're going to move this vertex right there so that they fuse. It fuses in with the other one. Okay. Now this one needs to convert to a editable poly. Alright, and we're going to attach with this. Make it one. Now, smooth the one. Collapse all. We're going to select, or let's do it this way. Going to select the bottoms of both of these, shrink, and then we're going to scale them up quite a bit. Then we're going to select here, oh, not that one, and that one, loop, and scale them up a bit to make it a little bit, continue to make it thicker at the base. And then this one and this one, loop, just a little bit. Now the next thing is, we're going to select this end, shrink, and collapse. We're going to select this, make sure we get all of it, shrink, and collapse that. Then select loop, and we're going to shrink it just a little bit. Okay. Now, next thing is we're going to select there, ring, connect. We're going to slide it down towards the bottom real tight. And select ring, connect. Okay. Now we're going to mesh smooth it. At least once. We're going to do it more when we get it into ZBrush. Then we're going to make a hemisphere. Now, why are we going to do this? Because that hemisphere will end up having a few more magical tendrils. Kind of how I did it with the spiritual weapons. Alright. And then editable poly. Let's make sure this is at X0 and Y0. And then select all of these points. And we're going to collapse them. No, not. We're going to switch it to polygons, shrink, and then collapse. Select that one lone poly or vertex, bring it up. And then select that edge right there, loop, and we're going to chamfer twice at 0.01. Okay. Alright, now we're going to export these three pieces separately. So, File, Export Selected, Arc I, Export, done. These will be Arc I struts, because that's effectively what they are. They're the struts. Export, done. And this will be Arc I Nexus. Done. Okay, and back to ZBrush we go. And peek our eyes in over here. Cloud of Daggers made it into the list. I don't know if I'll make it to Cloud of Daggers. The first thing we have to do now is we go back to bases and reload that magic circle base. Then we append the various parts of our spells. The eye, the struts, and the nexus. Now, we're going to detail the eye before we do anything else. We're going to divide it a few times till it's smooth. We're going to Dynamesh it at 512. Go ahead and close this. Okay. It's not 45,000. I actually want a little bit more detail because we're going to be drawing the actual iris and that sort of thing on it. We're going to be using the mouse instead of the stylus because I want to make sure that we get more precision. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going actually to layer. Layer, there it is. We're going to turn off lazy mouse. We're going to turn symmetry on. Z-sub. This is going to be the iris. Nope. Number 1, not deep enough. Number 2, not large enough. Nope, still not either. Let's turn it a little bit. Oh. Okay, there we go. That's a bit too deep. Okay, there. Let's just use that. We're going to shrink the mouse and smooth over the edges here. No, that's still too small. Okay, that's big enough. Then we're going to go back to add. We're going to shrink it a little. Not quite as intense. Okay. Now we shrink the mouse and go over here. Okay. Now the next thing is we're going to use a layer again. We're going back to subtract, going really deep and staying kind of small. We're going to turn lazy mouse on. And no. Anyway, let's go ahead and no, I know. Let's use the orb cracks brush. What we're going to do is we're going to make it no. Lazy radius a little bit longer, a good bit deeper, and a little bit larger. Okay, so we're going to go from the top about here down to here and then back down. And then we shrink the mouse a little, and then we proceed to smooth out inside what will be the pupil. Especially in here. Okay. Now, keeping it this way, we're going to go a little bit less deep and a lot smaller. And we're going to start, and we're going to follow around the iris. Just to sharpen that out. Make it more clear. Then one loop around. 2, 3. Okay. Now we're going to the sub and kind of pull it this way. No. That's not what we need. We need slash. Okay, there we go. Not big enough. Just want to kind of sharpen the edge of the pupil. Okay. We're going to do one last thing, and that's we're going to use what's called a rake tool. It's over here. You need to turn lazy mouse on just long enough to turn the lazy step to 0.1. And make it a good bit bigger, and we're going to Z sub. Drag. Oh! Make it smaller. Now let's do it with the slash. Z sub. And the stylus. Because that's just too uncontrolled. That's great for... Okay, need to be a lot wider and a lot narrower, or less, a lot shallower. Too wide. Oh, that's right. What happens is we need to go as a zigzag. Almost. There we go. There we go. Now we go to inflate, add Just kind of, and then a little bit of smoothing to relax that area. And we have our the eyeball done. With the struts, we're just going to go ahead and mesh smooth them a little. Subdivide them. And then the nexus, we're going to subdivide them quite a bit. And then we're going to dynamesh it where it is. And then subdivide it to get more geometry. And we go back to our nifty little snake hook brush. We want it to be about the size of the base of these. And we're just going to grab and drag up other little tendrils. Okay, so that's the basic shapes are all we need for those tendrils. Going to the subtool, we're going to merge with the iron struts, and then we're going to geometry. We're going to dynamesh at 128. No, we need to be at 256. Okay. Now we're going to go to the move topological. Shrink it to about there, and then we're going to kind of blend it in to that one. Okay, then we're going to come down here and we're going to smooth out where some of these tendrils are fusing and weaving in and out. Because we want it to be apparently one mass. One mass of invisible, translucent, arcane energy that's supporting this arcane eye. Also want to kind of... yeah. We're going to shrink the tips of each of these because we want them to kind of get a little bit more pointed than they are. Okay. Now we go to slash again, and what we're going to do is we're going to start off. We're going to make this a lot bigger, and we're going to be digging a lot deeper. And we're going to kind of just draw in some random little. Actually, I need to make it a little bit smaller and a little bit deeper. We're going to be drawing in some random little grooves down the struts because it's random magic-y bits. Mom? Okay, never mind. She's watching the Spanish edition of the news for some reason. I think she fell asleep. Okay, and then just a little bit here. Down. Okay, now we frame out to see the whole thing. A little bit more down that way. And now we're going to go to the add and reduce the strength a bit because add's always sharper than subtract. We're going to draw in some ridges again because to make it more... give it more texture, more character, and bring it. Let's bring this around. And that was pretty quick. Okay, zoom out, frame. And here we have Arcane Eye. And so we're going to merge down. And we're going to Dynamesh. $974, okay. And once again, 35K. And we have our Arcane Eye ready. So we're going to export. Under Done, Arcane Eye marker. Okay, real quick, let me pop in here, just so I can go here and not, excuse me, go in here and not flood your screen. I also have to poke my head up here. Alright. The next thing that we're going to do, according to this list of mine, is actually Grasping Vine. Alright, I know. Cloud of Daggers is going to be number 4. Alright, now, can someone do me a favor and find out what the reach of Grasping Vine is? I don't have my player's handbook handy. Pun not intended. Anyone? If I can't find out, I'm probably going to end up just guessing and getting it wrong. On Grasping Vine, which I think is a druid spell. I know it doesn't, it in of itself does not move. But it's a stable thing that reaches out and lashes like, you know, so 30-foot range. Okay, excellent. Let's go ahead and go back to... Failed again. I think I'm trying too hard. Is the thing. Alright, so we're going to select both of these and we're going to delete them. Okay. Let me get some soda. "30 feet is roughly 5 inches. Or, if you would prefer, 125 centimeters. Each one of these squares is roughly a centimeter. So, if it was upright, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Double that. So I can just kind of draw a big old line, and it won't matter because it stretches. So what I do is I go for a line again. I'm going to start here. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to move individual vertexes to make it kind of slide, make it kind of quiver and do all that in multiple directions. Okay, Fuzzbutt. Come on. Oh, you're just gonna sit there. They don't always obey commands, even when they do. They don't always obey commands, but when they do, it's on their terms. Okay, we're gonna need to move or at least this one. Shinju, no. Yep. There you go. Yeah. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to thicken it, because that won't support itself. Okay. Convert it to edible poly. And now we're going to select that. We're going to shrink. We're going to delete. The reason for that is that was not a quadable, or that was a erratic cover. So, chamfer. Okay. And then shrink. Quite a bit. And then chamfer, not quite that much. About there. Okay. Then we select it and we collapse it. There we go. Now we select down here. We rotate it so that it's mostly vertical. Enlarge it this way a little, and then enlarge it this way quite a bit. Then select here and enlarge it a bit, because this is going to be the thickening. It's like Highlander 2, the thickening. And if any of you out there remember it as well as I do, I am so sorry. Now we're going to select the end and we're going to shrink it. And then this just a little. Okay. Now the next thing we do is we go ahead and mesh smooth it, just to see how it looks as a smooth tube. Yeah, that looks like a kind of a nasty vine. And give it one more smoothing. One more. Collapse all. And we're going to export this as simply fine. Done. Okay. Now go back to ZBrush and import under bases to base magic circle, then append polymesh, import your spell effects, new spells, vine, and then geometry of the vine, we're going to subdivide it a few times until it's nice and heavy, or not heavy, but nice and smooth. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to inflate, and we're going to make this inflate large enough to cover a large section of the vine. We're also going to make sure we do not have, okay, good. We want to make sure we did not have symmetry on. What we're going to do now is we're going to kind of just like thicken parts of the vine. We're then going to shrink it and do something similar about halfway up each segment. Okay. We're going to kind of add some little lumps. What this does, this gives us a kind of a more organic look to it, and the segments that vines will have. Now, one thing we're not going to have, sadly, we're not going to have leaves on this vine. At least not yet, but we are going to have thorns. And the way we're going to do the thorns is we're going to go back to our friendly neighborhood snake hook. And this time we're actually going to reduce the intensity. So we grab and, oh no, we got to increase there. No. What happens if we do it that way? Okay, perfect. That's kind of what we want. We need to decrease the intensity again. No, that's too little. There we go. No. There we go. That's a thorn. Excellent. Okay, let's put one over here. There we go. And then kind of over that way. Okay. Now we're going to give it one layer Dynamesh at 512. And it gives us 1.17. Then we're going to hit it with a layer of polishing. what we're looking at is things like this area. I'm going to go ahead and hit some of these thorns a little bit, just to just kind of smooth them out. Okay. So what do you think of grasping vine? I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to go back to the slash brush. And that's probably about what I want. I'm going to make, around these little larger lumps, I'm going to make like a little... No, it wouldn't do. Let's go back to Orb Cracks 2. Turn off Lazy Mouse. Reduce the intensity, but increase the size. Yeah, that's better. What this is for is, again, to represent kind of the divisors that some vines have, little lumpy areas. Okay, and then we're going to kind of go here. And there. This lump is going to get one here. You're going to get such a lump! I tell you! It's going to be there, and it's going to be there, and it's going to be everywhere! Okay, let's give it, also to give it a bit more of an organic look. There we go. I need something down here because this is a really large lump. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and merge down. And under geometry, dynamesh it. Okay, smooth that out because that kind of needs it there. Alright. Now, this is going to be 100K because it's got a lot more geometry to cover. Trash can. Get a new one. A year and a half of constant use. And it's still in ideal shape. No, Ralph. No. No. Shoo. Alright, now, that's that. That's 100,006 polygons erupting out of the center of a magic circle. Export. Grasping vine marker. And it's now 9:30. So averaging about half an hour for each of these. Okay, so now we go back to here. But what we're going to do is going to be something rather unique. Okay? We're going to make a couple tendrils with the line method coming out of the center. But we're going to change it from 5mm thickness to 2mm thick. No, 3mm thickness. Wait a minute, that's too big. I keep forgetting. Okay, there we go. Better. And I'm going to go from here. Now the reason for these is I am going to turn them into basically tendrils holding various daggers, but I'm going to do it in a way I have not yet done tonight. I've done it for other things I've made, but not something like this. Okay, now this one. Okay, now we select this guy. Grab the bottom one and pull it a little bit deeper into the base. These two bits are going forward. This bit is going backwards. And then we're going to select this sucker. And as before, we're going to make sure that the core of it is completely in. We're going to select this one and go back a little. And the same thing with this one. Then we're going to select this one and come forward quite a bit. Now you'll notice it kind of ends up with a bit of, yeah, there we go. Now we're going to collapse it to an edible poly, and we're going to attach all three other lines. Now we select these bottom vertexes, lower them below the level of the magic circle, and scale them vertically 0. And then we're going to select that into that and shrink, and we're going to make all of the bases bigger. You select, and here, and then we're going to make it a little bit bigger so that it thickens. Okay, and then we mesh smooth. Okay, now we collapse it all. This is going to be exported as dagger tendrils. Export. Done. And now we're going to do something, and now for something completely different. Import props. So this one. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this dagger here. Frame. Zoom. Frame. There we go. Lower. And what we're going to do is we're going to create insert mesh. New. Okay. Now, we go back in, we import bases, magic circle. And then we go to append, and now we import from spell effects, new spells, dagger tendrils, frame. Okay, that's quite a bit. Now what we do is, let's go ahead and make sure our depth is okay. We're gonna, no. We're going to place these at embed of 50. Okay. Now all we're going to do is we're going to sit here and draw daggers onto these tendrils at different angles. Oh, that one went into the other one, so delete that one. And then we want to try and keep these daggers from stabbing into the other tendrils. That was too big. There we go. And then one coming up that way. One on top. Out here. No. Out here. So right now what we have is a whole lot of daggers held up by a whole lot of tendrils of magic. Now, let's see what happens when I subdivide it a couple times. That should get us to 200. Yeah, and then one more time. Delete lower. Frame. Daggers in different sizes and directions. This one will likely not print well on FDM. So we're going to try, see what happens. We're going to push it. Deformation, inflate. Make them thicker and a little bit easier to print, although even then it's going to be a rough one. Geometry. Dynamesh. Okay. And merge down. And Dynamesh. Most of these won't be easy to print on FDM. I hate to say it that way, but with as many pointy bits as these things, only paint the base and the blades of the daggers themselves. Maybe the cross guards if you really want to. And now, with Decimation Master, first let's get rid of this one is going to be also 100,000. Oh, it should be fun to print. Computing, please wait. That's a problem. If you're ever doing a model and you see that, that means something went wrong. So we're going to go from 512 to 420 and Dynamesh. Okay, we're down to 881. All right. Custom. And that looks like it's going to work. Okay. And here we have that. Let's go ahead and export it. Done as Cloud of Daggers marker. Okay. Oh, as my foot is asleep, I'm putting this up because I think 4 is a good solid number for tonight. The last one was technically 2 spells, but 4 markers. This is 4 different spells. And that gets rid of Arcane Eye, Cloud of Daggers, Flaming Sphere, and Grasping Vine. I have one more set to do, and that's going to be Dancing Lights, Tensor's Floating Disc, Unseen Servant, and then a random animated object or two, which technically you could use the spiritual weapons, but paint the weapons themselves. For example, if I decided that I wanted to have, the warrior has a warhammer, and it becomes part of an animate object spell. Well, you just paint the warhammer part. Anyway. Hi. Let me go ahead and pop back. So that was the spells. Oh. Wow. Now, like I said, don't forget that down there I've got the link to the Titans of Legend Kickstarter. And with all good luck, I might actually make the first stretch goal. It's not looking like I'll make any of the stretch goals. I might barely make funding, and even then it's looking kind of iffy. Yes. You saw that ear just pop up, didn't you? What are you doing? No, little buddy. You gotta wait. Down you go. Yeah, I had someone who apparently got the wrong level of funding because they went from the commercial print license level back down to the full level from 150 to 25. Yeah. Well, what are you looking at, little fuzzbutt? Yes. Good girl. This girl here is almost 13 years old. Mm-hmm. Anyway. So. Like to note that I also have plans for after the Titans release. She's a calm, quiet little baby girl. Alright, little story time about why her bed is right here. And it was her decision. When she was a kitten, we had roommates. And they moved away when she was about a year old. And so this used to be their room. It's now become the office. And I moved stuff in here. And while I was doing that, we also had sitting right here laundry basket, with laundry in it. And she decided she wanted to sleep on in laundry while I was sitting here working on the computer. Well, a day or two later, we went to do laundry, and she stood where this was and started crying. So I got a couple of those 3-drawer filing cabinets, as you can see. Put a large animal bed on it with a towel because this way it's actually a lot easier to clean than this stupid thingy. And we velcroed it to the filing cabinet so when she jumps on and off she doesn't send it flying. And this is her bed. Oh, I'm certain that around the 1st of February I'll see a spike. It's just, I had a first day spike of, and I've noticed that the ones that tend to be really big successes also tend to get funded in the first couple days. I mean, look at Danny's. 30-something thousand in one day. Oh well, 2 orders of magnitude more popular than me, I guess. I also have asked Thingiverse if it's within the rules to put a link to my Kickstarter in my bio. I haven't heard back from them, and I don't like the old saying, it's either to beg forgiveness than to ask permission. No, it's not. If you ask permission, and you don't get a reputation for being someone that's hard to do business with. Ill-Gotten's Games might do it, but I'm not Ill-Gotten Games. I don't have their name yet. That name recognition level. It's just, I want to do things within the rules for this. There's nothing morally imperative about doing them outside the rules. I mean, here's my view on what I think my alignment is. I think my alignment is neutral good. Because if I can work within the rules, I will. If I feel that a given rule or law is in and of itself a bad rule or a bad law, I'll be far more tempted to not follow it, or in some cases, explicitly break it. For example, in 1944, it was against the law to shelter a Jew in Germany. Yeah. So that would be a law I would gladly break. A chaotic good person doesn't care about what laws are. If it's not the big ones of, don't harm people, who cares if they, you know, what? What? Rules are, chaotic good is the kind that would say better to ask forgiveness than to ask permission. Let's just do it. If it was wrong, oh well. But they're still good, so they don't want to do things that will harm people, or mentally or physically. They're not going to steal from someone if what they're going to steal would make them unable to pay their rent. But they might steal a painting from a rich man. If got a good thief. Yeah. Yes. As you see them, hey, calm down, baby girl. Calm down. Okay? No. Alright, Ralph, you're gonna have to go down. You're causing problems. Yep. Good. Go on, buddy. Go on. Did you have to do that? Hey. Shinju. Okay. Uh-oh. They're about to start the crazies. Anyway. So, I'm not really good with social media. I'll confess that right now. I got Facebook. I'm pretty good about posting on Facebook. I've got 11 followers on Twitter. And 333 on YouTube, unless apparently the person from earlier, Kurtrian, is apparently 334. So I don't have the audience Danny has. I can only post it and say, hey, yeah, guys, we got some Kickstarter. And to ask the people who follow me to, talk about it. Try and see if you can get other people interested. Do you mind? No! Shoo! Shinju? Come on, buddy. Come on, little baby girl. Sorry about this. The cats have decided that this is the perfect time to start a little brawl. You'd never guess that when it's mealtime, they'll make room for each other at the food bowl, would you? Nope. Yeah. Or that the 13-year-old regularly beats up the 7-year-old. Anyway. I understand. It's just the only places I really know and that really know me are the 3D printed minis, Reddit, and the tabletop, 3D printing tabletop. It's not the 3D printing table. Which one is it? The Tabletop 3D Printing Guild Facebook group. Yeah. So. Okay. So those are about the only places that I regularly go, and that I wouldn't be accused of spamming. Yes, I'm a kitty wrangler. Always do your eyebrow exercises. Yeah, that was cool. That gave me. I was at 240 subscriptions on here on YouTube when the morning that came out. 2 days later, I was at 310, I think, and I've gotten another 20 or so since then. Anyway, my big thing is, yes, I enjoy doing this. Yes, I like to think I'm a decent sculptor. I'm not a grandmaster. I've seen grandmasters. And I am getting better day by day. But especially with the sculpts that I do live on camera, I'm a little bit... I cut a few corners sometimes. And it's... There's a constant... There's a saying in the art world. It's called the 80% rule. And that's that you will spend 80% of your time and 80% of your effort on 20% of the project. In the case of sculpting miniatures, it's if I can, there's details and things I could completely redo if I had the time to spend a full day on a single figure. Like pretty much what I did with the Giants. You can't see them, they're on the shelf. They're on this shelf. I took more time with them because I could. On the show, I don't quite have that luxury, but yeah. But take a look at some of the things I did for him for the Dragonborn. That's what I do if I have a lot more time to spend. There's a thing in the art world called the speed sculpt. I should say the CG art world. And that's where people will take a sphere, primitive, and see what they can do with it in 1 hour. Some of the things that I have seen done to a sphere in 1 hour, you would look at it and have no idea how this could have come from a sphere. Usually by, what they'll do is they'll take it and they'll use the move tool, clay buildup, occasionally snake hook, to drag out the general shape, and then Dynamesh, and then go from there. So, it is most of the time people tend to do heads, simply because from here up it's mostly a deformed sphere. But I've seen a full-on dragon done in 1 hour. Now, it was in an A pose and symmetrical, but a full daggone dragon in 1 daggone hour. What the heck? Ooh. There's sites that are dedicated to general 3D art. Usually, the higher end quality, not so much the beginners, like Polycount. Shinju, get over here. Get over. Yes, good girl. She knows I'm not happy. Anyway, these are people that about 2/3 of them work in the game industry as artists in the game industry. And the other third is hobbyists. And this is what they do in their spare time. Yeah. You will notice that they rarely meow. I think that's the first time she's meowed on camera in a long time. Isn't it? Baby girl. Don't you even think about it. No. Really? Poke. 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 That's why I'm suddenly turned this way, so I don't end up with another brawl between the two of them. Well, the thing is, the little fuzzbutts love me. And they get jealous, don't they? They get jealous. And look at the tail. Anyway. See? Yeah. Not this one, but the other black cat, Carlton, who hasn't been in here in a few. They kind of just rotate in and out. He'll do a thing. I'll pick him up. He will roll over in my arms with his belly up. And when I start scritching him, he'll grab my hand and just kind of claws in. It just bare paws and just kind of. I stop scritching and he's like. And on rare occasions, he'll just. While I'm sitting there scratching his belly. And cats don't normally like that. Come on. Come on, buddy. What do you think you're doing, huh? No. No. Say hello to the people. Yeah. Alright, down you go. Scoot. One of the most adorable dogs I've ever seen was a Shelgie. Dad was a Shetland sheepdog. Mom was a Corgi. It looked like a Shetland sheepdog with the legs of a Corgi. Anyway, it's now 10:05. I've gotten 4 spells done. And you own cat dog? You own hyenas? Cats that look like dogs? CBE News. Anyway, it's now 10:05. That's funny. Ralph, the cat that was on the back of my chair just a few minutes ago, plays fetch. He plays fetch. Anyway, it's time for me to go ahead and hold up my hand. When I count... Oh, first, my foot's asleep. Time for me to hold up my hand. I count down to 1. I say something goofy. And then go bye-bye. So, starting from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The cat landed on the worst spot possible just then. Oh.